Alright, so I guess we had this coming because today we're going to compare the OnePlus 8 Pro, which is OnePlus's first ever true flagship, versus the Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus, a veteran when it comes to flagships. Hey there people, how you doing? So, it's time to see which one of these two is better. And unlike before, we're gonna start off with the display because, well, let's face it, it is the one thing that you look at day in and day out. So it's time to decide which one has the best display over here. I'd say that to date, it's been pretty unanimous that Samsung displays are considered to be at least the best ones because they're basically the manufacturers when it comes to AMOLED displays. But OnePlus, well, they actually, in my opinion at least, reign supreme here. And that is quite an achievement if you ask me, because there are specifically two things that OnePlus does better than the S20 Plus. And of course, I'm not saying that the S20 Plus has a bad display. I mean, that's really not possible from a Samsung. Now, there are basically two things that OnePlus does slightly better than the S20 Plus, and that in and of itself is kind of an achievement if you ask me. Because on the 8 Pro, we have 1440p running at 120Hz, and that is actually not even possible on the S20 Plus. Well, it is technically possible, but well, Samsung limits it for who knows why, battery reasons apparently. But yeah, that's the case here. You won't be able to get the full resolution and sharpness out of your display. And yeah, it's minute, sure, a lot of people will say that, but well, let's face it, the freedom to choose your resolution, that's a good feeling. And in a flagship, I think it matters. And the next thing that OnePlus does quite a bit better, and they use some separate hardware for it apparently, is 10-bit color. Samsung doesn't even have anything of that sort in this S20 Plus, but OnePlus can do 10-bit color, especially in HDR, and that makes a huge load of difference. I can tell you, I've seen it, and I cannot actually stress enough how good it looks, because as far as I've seen for all the different phones I've used, the S20 Plus also has the same problem when it comes to HDR playback. Well, they basically have this form of artifacting when we are looking at some kind of a gradient when playing back HDR. But when you look at the OnePlus's display, due to the presence of 10-bit color, well, the gradients are completely smooth. It's zero artifacting, and that is just blissful, to say the least. Now, of course, there are downsides. This display on the 8 Pro does have some issues with a warm cast when playing back HDR. It's a little less punchy than I'd like, but you know, I'd still pick this one over the S20 Plus because, well, 10-bit color is something I personally like a lot. I really like watching HDR on my phone, and well, if you're not the person who watches HDR content on their phone, then your opinions may differ, of course. But yeah, sure, my pick goes to the OnePlus here. Well, I'd say that OnePlus has quite a good head start here. But now let's talk about cameras, and well, ideally, in a flagship, it's like preferable to have like the best camera you can have. But I'd say OnePlus does a really good job, especially when it comes to images. And I think I've said this quite a few times before, but OnePlus absolutely nailed images. Because let me tell you, the images that can be produced from this camera is almost identical and definitely at par with the S20 Plus right here. And that is no small feat, let me tell you, because far as I've seen, OnePlus has always lagged behind just a tad, maybe just a few steps behind, but it's been consistently behind the flagships. The fact that they managed to just, cover all that and make their images so good is it's something that should be appreciated, in my opinion at least. But there is a small issue with the video. The focusing speed is not there. Well, I talked a lot about it in my camera comparison, and you can check it out in the link in the description. But yeah, let me tell you, in a nutshell, the video that can be produced from the OnePlus 8 Pro is, well, subpar than what you'd expect from a flagship. Yeah, sure, it is cheaper than the S20 Plus, so I guess a little bit of it is forgivable, but not really the quality that we get. It's not really that good. It's really soft when it comes to even like slight less light than maximum daylight. And this subpar fact is not really limited to the videos particularly. It's also the fact that you don't have a pro video mode. I feel like the OnePlus 8 Pro could have done wonders with a real pro video mode. I mean, they could have had so much features that, like the S20 Plus, this thing has a really good pro video mode. And yeah, for someone like me, definitely I appreciate the fact that something like that even exists. It's, well, quite a convenience. So, other than that, there are also some other features like in night mode. I do think that the S20 is slightly better. And if you're to talk about zoom, both of them have 3x zoom, but the S20 does have support for that 3x zoom in night mode as well, which OnePlus surprisingly lacks. I'm just pointing it out because, it's something this new flagship lacks, but it's not something I really care about, so I guess it's alright to just forego that. It's pretty obvious that OnePlus has made numerous and really good strides in cameras overall, and yeah, I'm really impressed with the images, but videos, they still have some work to be done there. And I'm really hoping that the next flagship that they come out with will have that video problem fixed. But yeah, overall, I do think that cameras will definitely go to Samsung because, well, they have really good quality video this time around. And yeah, this one also supports 8K. I'm just putting it out there because I know that not a lot of people care about it. The quality is not really there yet, but this thing does it. The OnePlus 8 Pro doesn't. That's something to consider at least. And now for the design. And I kept it for a little later because, in my books at least, OnePlus 8 Pro takes the design by a long shot. Look, I cannot forego the fact that this thing has one of the best matte finishes that I've seen, and the fact that the S20 Plus, for whatever reason, doesn't have one. I mean, I don't know. I really wish the S20 had a matte finish. It would have been obviously excellent, but yeah, the OnePlus 8 Pro with its really well tapered edges and the matte finish, symmetry, all that stuff put together, definitely it takes the cake for design. And now for performance. And there is a little bit of a problem here because, well, depending on where you live, you'll either get, at par performance with the OnePlus 8 Pro for the S20, or you'll not. Because I have the Exynos version here, and yeah, it's lacking. I mean, it's pretty obvious by now, everyone knows about it, because the Snapdragon counterpart that we have in this, the 8 Pro, is quite a bit better than what we have in this. And it's not just performance that is kind of lacking on the S20 Plus, and well, let's not even talk about the heating issues, because that is another problem, but it's the battery life that affects me most. I really feel like the battery that I'm getting out of the S20 Plus is really not at par with what I'm supposed to get, what I'm paying for, and what I'm supposed to expect. Because let's face it, with a 1080p display, the 1440p display on the OnePlus 8 Pro somehow manages to get equally good, or maybe sometimes even a smidge better battery life than the S20 Plus Exynos version. That is really sad. And well, honestly, I do think that if you're in an area where you're getting the Exynos version, well, I'd say for now at least stay away from it because it's got quite a few issues right there. If you use your phone even like medium to heavy, then definitely you'll see the problems that are accompanied with this chipset right here. Now, of course, if you're living in a region where the S20 Plus has a Snapdragon version, then yeah, then you won't face any of the problems that I'm facing at least. And that more or less wraps up the performance and battery life part, which is, well, the obvious winner here is the OnePlus 8 Pro, because the inferior chipset on the S20 is really holding it back. And it's, well, something that I really wish they improve in the Note that's coming out soon, the Note 20 I guess. And now, finally, let's talk about the extra stuff that we get from these. Of course, most of it is software related, but yeah, there are quite a few things both of them offer, and I'd say that I'm gonna pick the S20. I'm saying it before itself because, let's face it, I love customization. The S20 does it like none other I've seen before. I mean, just name it. There's good luck. That, in and of itself, is a slew of customization that you can do with your phone, and it's like manufacturer built in. So it works almost perfectly with whatever settings you have. You don't have to worry about glitches or crashes or anything like that. It's tuned by Samsung themselves for their very own devices. So I'd say that overall customizability is a definite win for the S20 here. But there are certain things that the OnePlus does better as well. Let's just say the aesthetics. That is quite a bit better, especially with those stock icons that we get from OnePlus 8 Pro. It looks a lot cleaner, a lot more mature, while the large, kind of childish icons I'm not really a fan of on the S20 Plus here. And let's not forget about the Google feed that we get on the OnePlus 8 Pro. Well, well, over here we have nothing of the sort. But well, of course, there is something that OnePlus is quite sorely lacking, and it's completely software related, and that is the always on display. I've talked a little more in depth about this in another video, I'll link it. And yeah, overall, I do think that definitely the OnePlus is just, a step or two behind when it comes to overall software features and, well, overall usability as it stands right now. I'm gonna pick the S20 Plus here. So I guess it's finally time to answer the question, which of these two is actually the better one? Is it the OnePlus 8 Pro, a new flagship, or a veteran, the S20 Plus? Well, I guess the answer would not be unanimous. It's not like one is better than the other in all ways possible. That's really not the case. Because it really depends on which features you want, which features you'd expect from a flagship that you're paying quite a lot of money for. Is it like, do you want the best possible display, best possible software experience, best possible performance, best possible camera? It depends on which one you guys want. So, yeah, I'd say that my preference would go to the OnePlus 8 Pro because although I absolutely love the S20 Plus, there are certain things that kinda annoy me. The slightly less than average battery life, the slightly lower resolution, the absence of 10-bit color. It's not like the S20 is, I'd say, a bad display overall. It's just this one feels a little bit better to me. That's all. So yeah, I'm telling you, it's just my preference here. So, other than that, there's also the slightly better performance and overall, I'd say, efficiency boost that we're getting from the OnePlus 8 Pro. The design is absolutely killer on the OnePlus 8 Pro. You know me, I am a matte finish sucker. So, that kind of wraps up why I feel that the OnePlus 8 Pro is just a step or two ahead, especially because if you just consider the price, $900 starting versus $1,200, because that could quite easily and more efficiently just sway people towards the OnePlus 8 Pro rather than the S20 Plus here. But of course, I would definitely love to know which of these two mainstream flagships do you guys prefer? Is it the S20 Plus? And that too, which model? Is it the Exynos version or the actually much better Snapdragon variant? Or is it just the OnePlus 8 Pro? Which of these two do you guys think? And if you have the time to spare, also let me know why you guys actually like either of these two. But that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be seeing you guys later. Cheers.